koalas here, which is a lot of koalas, yes, but it's really easy for us to have that many, and having that many koalas really helps with our breeding program. It means we've got a really good genetic diversity to draw from for our breeding, so it's a great number for us. When you guys are walking around, you probably think that every single koala looks exactly the same. How can we possibly tell the difference between them all? It is our job though to be able to walk into those enclosures and be able to tell what koala we're going to go and get photos and whatnot. Since they have such a strict roster, it's really important that we're getting the right koala, which is quite daunting when you first start. 130 names is a lot to remember, let alone what face they go with. But there's quite a few little tricks that we use to tell the differences between them, which I'll share with you. And then maybe when you guys are walking around today and you're looking at the koalas, you'll notice that they actually do look very different as well, and it might help you recognise that. So we look for different things in their faces. It might be the shapes of their ears. Some have really big, bald, pink ears. Some have fluffy ears. Might be the colours of their faces. Some have really dark faces. Some have little markings on their faces. There's a little boy Bentley in the enclosure up there. He has a little mole on his chin. He's pretty easy to pick. Also their noses. They're not all just black noses. There's lots of pink markings on their noses a lot of the time. So they might have little pink markings on the outside or on the insides of their noses. The second koala over here in the middle, Rodney, has the biggest black nose I've ever seen in my life. It's pretty easy to pick. He usually has lovely drool stains down the side of his face. He lives in that enclosure as well. When you're walking past him, you can pick him out. He's really big. There is another way that we identify koalas as well. You don't want to go and wake every single koala up when they're sleeping. It's quite rude to see their faces. So we try to make shapes out of the markings on their backs. They are all uniquely marked on their backs. That's how they camouflage so well when they're in the wild. So we just get really inventive. So Rodney, the guy with the big black nose, his back is really unique. He's got two big circles on his back that look like two eyeballs in the middle of his back. So if you can't see his face, see if you can spot his back when you walk past. Food. If you were sitting here and you saw them getting fed, you'll see how much they love their food. They get pretty excited when we feed them. It's like we haven't fed them in 3 weeks. They get fed every single day. Each day we send out 2 boys to go out and cut down leaf. They cut down about a ton of leaf a day for our koalas, which is a lot of leaf for 130 koalas. One koala though can have anywhere from 500 grams to a kilogram of leaves each. When you think about how much one leaf weighs, that is a high volume of leaves that they're consuming, but they're also really selective about the leaf that they're eating. So they're selective about quite a few different things. So the species of leaf that they eat, there's about 800 species of eucalyptus in Australia. Koalas eat 50. And then depending what region you find them, so in each little home habitat area, they might only have about 10 species of eucalyptus that they choose to eat. So they're quite picky about the species that they're eating. It is really important for them though. They're selective for a reason. It's because different plants grown in different soils have different nutrient levels, so there is a reason for it. Another really big way that they're quite selective about their leaf is the leaves that they're eating from the branches. So with lots of the species, you'll find that they often go for those brand new baby fresh tips of the leaf, and they will leave the mature older leaves alone. Not with all species, sometimes they only like the mature ones, but quite often you'll see they only go for the brand new baby ones. Sleeping, they do lots of this. This is probably a thing that you see when you're walking around a park most of the day. They sleep about 18 to 20 hours a day. Not always a deep sleep, often it's just them resting. It is not because they get doped up on eucalyptus leaf. I hear that so much, I don't know how that still gets around. It does not have a drugging effect on them at all. The reason why they sleep so much is because of the energy levels in leaf. So the third one from the top, it's only got 5% sugars and starches. It's a bit like you and I having lettuce all day after our food, and then people thinking that we can get up and run around. There's no energy in their food. It's also a highly toxic leaf. It's quite poisonous. If you or I were to consume as much as they do, it's actually quite poisonous. So it takes a lot of work for their bodies to process those toxins. Something else interesting about the leaf is actually 50% water. So they get most of the water that they need from the leaf that they're eating, which is why they often go for those brand new tips, because they have the most moisture. It's quite unusual to see a koala coming down onto the ground searching for water. You will see it in the rare occasion, like during fires and droughts, when they need to substitute it, but it is quite rare to see. If you've held a koala or you're going to hold one, you'll see they do have lovely long sharp claws. We don't cut their claws here. I get asked that a lot. They still live in trees. They use their claws for lots of other different things as well. So this is their hand paw. You can see they have 2 opposable thumbs. That's their gripping paw. So when they climb, lovely, those boys are doing that now. When they climb those trees, it means they get a really good grip on it. And they do like to jump from branches. So about 1.5 meters to 2 meters in the air they can jump. When you think about how much some of those boys weigh, they need some decent claws. And then this one here is their foot paw. You can see there is no claw on that thumb. The next 2 digits though are kind of fused together, and there's 2 claws coming out of that same one there. That's called their grooming claw. When you walk around, you see them scratching themselves, which they do a lot. It's not because they're itchy or because they have fleas. It's because they're trying to get all those dirt and sticks and knots out of their hair. Their fur is very dense and thick. Unlike your cat or dog who can lick through their coat, they need to scratch through it with their claw. They are not bears. People call them koala bears. Yes, they are a mammal, but they are not related to the bear. They are from a very special family called a marsupial. And what that is an animal that gives birth to really undeveloped young that develop inside of their pouch instead of inside of their womb. So all your kangaroos and wallabies, your possums, even your Tasmanian devils have pouches. In fact, the closest living relative to the koala is the wombat. And the reason for that is because they both have a really unique pouch. It is called a backwards or downward facing pouch. So if you guys were in the reserve and you saw kangaroos, you would have seen the joeys coming out like they're coming out of the top of a pocket. With wombats and koalas, it's very, very different. The opening to the pouch is actually at the base of the pouch, and you see the joey exit towards the bottom of the animal. So while that wombat's making his burrows, he's digging through all the dirt and rocks, and the koala's climbing through all those sticks, means those things can't get into the pouch. So it's a really good design. How can you guys tell the difference between a male and a female? It's really easy. So aside from obvious appendages, the easiest way to tell a boy koala, this lovely specimen here, Bagel, if you look at his chest, you'll see he's got a big brown dirty stain on his chest. That is called his scent gland. Only boys have this. So when you're walking around, try to look at their chest and see if there's a dirty stain there. As you can see, Indigo here has a purely white chest. She's nice and clean. So there's a little slit in his chest. It secretes an oil. Each koala smells distinctive to each other. It's all quite overwhelming odour to us. It's quite potent. And you'll see them come up to the base of a tree. They stand beside it and then they rub that chest onto the tree so that oil gets onto the tree. So another koala coming into the area knows it's in someone else's territory, and also the more smelly he is, the more girlfriends he gets. So this is a little girl. I'll show you where her pouch is. It's quite hard to see when there is no joey in there because they keep those muscles really tight so it stays clean. But there's a little indentation quite low on her body there. That is where her pouch is. So this is what she gives birth to. Highly undeveloped young. Their pregnancy period is really short, 33 to 35 days, and then they give birth to this little jelly bean. Weighs about half a gram, about the size of your pinky fingernail, completely blind when it's born, completely hairless. Quite amazing because it will go from its mother's cloaca, so her birth canal, into the pouch, completely unaided by the mother. It goes purely by instinct, quite amazing. Once it's into that pouch, it attaches to one of the 2 teats in there. The teat will actually swell inside the joey's mouth, so it's really firmly attached because it needs to stay there for about 5 or 6 more months to develop into a little koala. This is just showing you, this is about 2 months of age, still looks like an alien, but it does highlight how well developed their forearms are when they're first born because they need to do that climb very fast. This gorgeous little thing's about 6 months of age, that's when they start to come out of the pouch, looking ridiculously gorgeous. When they come out, obviously they want to have eucalyptus leaf, but to go from having milk to eucalyptus leaf, they need to do something called patch feeding, which is gross. I'll explain it to you. So the joey will go down to its mother's cloaca. It nuzzles there and encourages her to make something called pat, which is a very special form of feces that she makes. It's like a paste consistency. If you've had Vegemite, it's kind of runny and anyway, it's not very nice. Over the course of a few weeks, the joey needs to eat this quite a few times. The reason why this is so important because eucalyptus leaf is so toxic, they need special bacteria that are only found in this pat to get into their guts to break through the toxins in the eucalyptus leaf. If they don't do that, then they can't eat. So it's really, really important for them to go through this process. This little joey is about 8 to 12 months of age. It's when they call back young. Too big to fit in that little pouch, so they ride around on their mother's backs or anywhere they can grab onto. If you guys have not seen joeys today, if you go up to the top of the hill where the platypus house is, opposite the platypus house, there's an enclosure there called mums and babies. There's 4 backs down in there at the moment. They are super cute. After the talk, maybe head up there. It's the best time to see them when they're just getting fed because they get pretty excited and run around and act like crazy people. And then at 12 months of age, in the wild they'll go and find their own territory. Here at Lone Pine we separate them at 12 months of age. So if you want to see newly separated joeys, they got separated about a month ago, in kindergarten and also in hubby house. They live about 8 to 10 years in the wild, a little bit longer in captivity, about 12 to 16 years. The oldest koala that we have at the moment is 16 years old. The oldest koala that we had was this girl. Her name was Sarah. She died in 2001. She was 23 years old, so definitely beat that 16-year mark. There is only one species of koala. They do vary in appearance quite a lot though. So we have what's called the northern koala, found in Queensland and New South Wales, where it's a bit warmer. You can see it's quite light grey fur, quite short. Their males are usually about 8 to 10 kilograms. The one on your left, very different visually, found south of New South Wales, so in those cooler climates, really dark fur so they can absorb all that sunlight, very fluffy, much bigger. So males are about 16 kilograms, so they're quite huge. Quite easy to find koalas when Europeans first settled in Australia. The light greens where you used to be able to find them, unfortunately the dark greens where you find them now. It's quite hard to estimate koala numbers, but they think there's anywhere from 80,000 to as little as 45,000 koalas left in the wild, which is abysmal numbers. The reason for that, of course, is mostly humans. Up until 1927 it was legal to hunt and kill koalas in Australia. They were nearly hunted to extinction. To give you a number of the an idea of the kind of numbers that were hunted in Australia. This is one hunt, there's 3,500 koala furs on there. In the final hunting season alone, in Australia, there was nearly 2 million koala furs exported from Australia. So due to public outrage, they were listed as a protected species. You can no longer hunt them. You also cannot have koalas as pets in Australia, which lots of people seem quite disappointed by, but they are incredibly high maintenance. Remember how picky they are about their food. It takes about 1,000 trees to feed one koala in its lifetime. The biggest issue they face today is habitat destruction. Since early settlement, we've knocked out about 80% of their home. It's really important as Australians to keep helping conserve, losing my words. A really important thing to know about habitat destruction, you're not just cutting down their food and their homes. Those little pockets that they have left are too small. They can't travel safely from one area to another. They also, in those little pockets, don't have enough leaf variety, not enough leaf. They also don't have enough genetic variety. It can mean lots of inbreeding, so it is a big issue. Fires, they are quite, I'm losing my words today, what's going on? They don't survive very well in fires. Unfortunately, their first instinct is to climb in a fire, which is the worst thing you can do. They will often, if they die, they will actually then starve to death if they survive the fire. I know they look like they're very fat and podgy, but that's all intestines. They actually don't store body fat, so they can't go very long at all without food. Predators, they don't have too many because they do choose to spend their time in the trees. They can be taken by large birds of prey, large snakes, if you are out here for the snake presentation. Goannas, if they're coming down on the ground and they're sick or injured, they can be taken by dingoes, domestic dogs and foxes. In fact, between domestic dogs and our roads, we lose about 4,000 koalas a year. Please, if you are driving around Australia, please be aware when you're driving around, especially at dawn and dusk. That's when they become most active because it's cooler for them. Disease, most people have heard about chlamydia. It is a big problem. It is not the same as human chlamydia. Unfortunately, there is no cure for it, or any, I don't have a vaccine for it yet. Lots of its symptoms are treatable though, so conjunctivitis in the eye, if it's caught soon enough, it can be treated. And the one on the left, for you, is dirty tail, which is like a urinary tract infection in the koalas. It unfortunately has no treatment. I'm losing this. So once the koalas get that, it actually causes infertility in the female koala population. So it is a big issue. It's all doom and gloom. There is lots we can do to help koalas. If you live in Australia, you can of course plant a eucalyptus tree. Remember how picky they are though, and find out from your local foundation what koalas in your area like to eat. If you don't live here and you still want to help with conservation, the Australian Koala Foundation do so much as far as conservation goes in Australia. If you go to their website, there's lots of options to help. You can donate and they'll plant a tree in your name. You can even adopt a koala through them. There's lots of Lone Pine koalas on there to adopt. Pretty fun. If you come back to visit us, you can always come back and visit your adopted koala. Like I said, please be aware when you're driving around. You're going to see a sign like this or a yellow triangle sign with a koala on it. Please keep to the speed limits. It's not just in bushland, it's in suburbia as well. Just be aware when you're driving around and keep your eyes open. Being responsible for our dogs, please keep your dogs locked up at night and keep them away from our native nocturnal animals. Especially with dogs, they don't have to inflict very big wounds to cause fatal injuries for a koala, so please be aware of that. Interesting fact is that koalas are actually quite good swimmers, so if they jump into your backyard pool to make it to the other side, they usually can make it across, but they can't actually grab onto anything to pull themselves out. So people like to tie a rope from the fence into the pool with something floating so they can rescue themselves. Good idea. I guess apart from all the facts that I've given you about koalas, something I really want you guys to remember when you're travelling around, these little cuties have no hope of survival